Episode of Sloppy Saturdays, and today we are going over our Week 7 recap. A lot of things have happened in Week 7 that were unexpected. We're going to get into it all. We see Alabama and Ohio State still absolutely rolling. We're going to talk about Indiana finally getting over the hump, in my eyes, beating an elite team, showing that it's not only that we could play these cupcakes, we are going to beat elite teams this year, and showing how much they improved over last year and how they're looked at in a different light. We're going to talk about Penn State, which has been an absolute disaster. We look at them losing another 20-point spread favorited game. James Franklin gets fired. Drew Aller out for the season. It has been a disaster for them. And we're going to get over so much more in this Week 7 recap. I am so excited to do it for you guys. This college football year has been, we have talked about it time and time again, just the amount of unexpected things that have happened. When you look at Clemson, when you look at Penn State not being ranked, when you look at teams like Texas Tech and Indiana rising into the top 10, there are so many unexpected things that nobody could have predicted, and I am so excited to talk about it. Let's get right into it. Now, the first game I do want to discuss is Alabama, Missouri. This game, I felt like after the Missouri first touchdown, Alabama had firm control throughout the game. I love the way Alabama is playing. I feel like this team has completely bounced back. In the beginning of the year, we had questions after they lost to Florida State, which looking back on now, how Florida State is, that should have never been a loss. They came out unprepared. We had questions on what they were going to do with their coach, but Kalen DeBoer. But now he completely bounced back. He gets 3 straight major wins now in a row, because when we look at this Alabama team, they play Georgia, play Vanderbilt, play Missouri, 3 SEC in conference wins. And for me personally, it looks like Alabama hasn't even scratched the surface of what their potential can be. What I mean by that is this team has looked better in the last 3 weeks because I think they got Jam Miller back, and that adds a different element to their run game. Jam Miller didn't have a crazy game, 20 carries, 85 yards. He also adds 4 receptions in for 25 yards. He has over 100 total yards for the game. Before that, it didn't look like they had a true running back to take the workload. Now they got Jam Miller. I believe that incorporated in their offense makes a whole lot of a difference, especially with Ty Simpson. Like, it takes a lot of pressure off him. And we saw Ty Simpson being pressured multiple times in this game. I didn't think Alabama's O-line did a tremendous job projecting Ty Simpson, and that's why it was a little close when you talk to 27-24, but I don't really think this was a 27-24 game. Like I said, I think Alabama had firm control. But I don't know if Alabama has even scratched the surface yet, because every week it looks so different and nobody's standing out right now. And I believe they have 3, 4 multiple standout guys in this offense. When we look at thumb beating Missouri in this game, we're talking about Ryan Williams not having a reception in this game. How does Ryan Williams not have a reception in an SEC matchup? You're talking about a guy that's an absolute game changer, an athletic freak, and he doesn't even touch the ball in this matchup. Like, that's crazy to me. And you still win 27-24. This is what I mean why I think Alabama hasn't even scratched the surface yet. I think they have 2 number 1 receivers in Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. And then you have Isaiah Horton as well, who has been pretty damn good over the stretch for Alabama. And every week it looks kind of different to me. Now, Ty Simpson is playing like a Heisman candidate. Ty Simpson is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I thought he did really good against his Missouri defense. When you look at 23 for 31, 3 touchdowns, 200 yards. Again, he didn't throw all over the place. I did think there was a lot of pressure for him. I thought this Alabama O-line could have definitely played well. But he's playing phenomenal. I mean, we look at 2 first-time starters, him and Julian Sayin, in these elite programs, and they have been playing lights out pretty much. I think the quarterback play for both schools have been better than last year, which is saying a lot. But again, like I said, with Jam Miller coming back, not really knowing how to use him, and then you look at these receivers like Ryan Williams not getting the ball enough. Even though Alabama had this 27-24 win, and it was a massive win, Kalen DeBoer is going to have to scheme Ryan Williams a little bit better. When you have this guy who has one of the best talents out of anybody in the entire country, whether it's on a screen pass, whether it's on an end around, you got to get this guy the ball, because you win this game against Missouri. I get it. It's a huge win. And I understand Ryan Williams has had drop concerns. I understand Ryan Williams is not the best blocker. That has been a concern as well. But if this Alabama team wants to win a national championship, Ryan Williams is going to have to be a part of it. And again, in this game where he can't get anything going, just let him touch the ball, whether it's on a screen, whether it's on a handoff. Let the guy touch the ball. Let the guy feel a part of it. That's my only concern with Alabama. But again, I think this Alabama team has been phenomenal the last 3 weeks on both sides of the ball. And this is what I told you guys when I had questions with Kalen DeBoer. Yes, this Alabama team doesn't have the depth of previous Alabama teams because the college football landscape is just not like that anymore, where you have 4 first-round receivers, when you have 3 NFL running backs. Like, Alabama isn't going to have that kind of depth of talent because of just how spread out it is with NIL and transfer portal. But Alabama does have Alabama type players on this roster. Like, we talked about their receivers, LT Overton, Justin Jefferson, 2 guys on defense that could play on any Alabama team. Like, they have the talent on this roster. And I think Alabama is really turning heads right now. I do kind of wish they didn't have that upset week 1 because they would be looked at a complete different light. But this is a national championship contending team in a college football landscape right now, outside of Ohio State, I feel like that is pretty wide open. Alabama has been playing well. They ring off 3 straight here. Now, the key thing why I believe they stopped Missouri, and I feel like us as a college football community got way too high on Missouri way too quick. Again, everybody wanted to do the Bo Prabula, Drew Allen comparisons, who Penn State should have kept. Missouri realistically has played cupcakes leading up to this Alabama game. Outside of South Carolina, who just flat out isn't as good as we thought they were going to be, they played cupcakes. And again, you talk about Missouri being a limited offense. They were running on the back of Ahmad Hardy. Ahmad Hardy has been one of the best players in the country, and they run through the run, and that opens up the pass game for Bo Prabula. We have seen multiple games where Bo Prabula doesn't tear up a defense passing. He feeds off the run, he runs himself, and he throws for, 150, 180 yards. We've seen that multiple times in this college football season. And I feel like people just got way too overhyped on this Missouri team, which tends to happen, especially when you see a lot of elite teams dropping. You see this Missouri team not really playing too much competition, but you see some standout guys. You get way too high on this team. But we saw this Missouri team meet their maker in Alabama, and they really got to figure stuff out, do some soul searching on how to revamp this offense and how to beat a in-conference team multiple ways, because we saw an Alabama team shut down the run, completely shut down Ahmad Hardy, a guy that's one of the best, if not the best, in breaking the first hit in the country. He gets shut down, 12 carries for 52 yards. And once he got shut down and Bo Prabula had to pass, you knew this game was over because they really haven't played from behind and haven't played when their run game isn't elite. Bo Prabula makes 2 mistakes, 2 interceptions. One of them comes late in the game. But I believe that was the difference. There was no way Missouri was going to win this game if Ahmad Hardy did not have a big game, and he flat out didn't. This is the first Ahmad Hardy game where he doesn't have over 100 yards rushing, and you saw Missouri look just uncomfortable in this game. Alabama, again, they remain super hot. They are looked at now as a true national championship contender when we had questions about them week 1. My biggest thing with Alabama is I feel like they haven't scratched the surface of their elite offensive players all producing in the same game. Again, like I said, I think they have to scheme Ryan Williams better. They could get through these games without Ryan Williams, like I said, but if they really want to win a national championship, your best player in Ryan Williams is going to have to show up. And like I said, my biggest concern with how Kalen DeBoer is coaching Ryan Williams is I feel like when he has a key drop or when he's not involved in the game, they completely go away from him. But he has to touch the ball. You got to do whatever to get this guy to touch the ball. Because like I said, however you want to slice it, he is the most talented player in this offense, and you're not going to win a national championship if he's not involved. That's my concern with them. But huge win for Alabama. And this Missouri team, again, they're going to have to do some soul searching because if they aren't able to run the football, they got to figure out how to win games when the run game is shut down. And if Bo Prabula is as hyped as everybody is saying, he has to figure out ways to win when Ahmad Hardy is getting collapsed. And we saw an Alabama team that really shut down this Missouri run. They stacked up the box and they were shelled. Now we're going to get into the next matchup, a matchup that was absolutely huge in my eyes of just a different view of a team. We are going into Indiana, Oregon. Now, this Indiana team, again, I have been tough on them. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have been tough on them. We saw an Indiana team last year with Kurt Signetti that basically bounced around this Big Ten schedule. They had a tough matchup in Ohio State. They couldn't compete in that game. Then they make the college football playoffs. They lose to Notre Dame, couldn't compete in that game. And we saw a team in Indiana that took advantage, won the game that they should have to get in the college football playoffs, but never really showed us anything that they could be an elite team. I had major questions on Kurt Signetti after this game because obviously he was the coach of the year. Everybody was talking about him in such a highlight. And definitely what he did with his Indiana turnaround, even last year, was super impressive. But I always say, what's the point of winning all these games when the ultimate goal is to win a championship? And they named Kurt Signetti coach of the year, and he could not get over any of these elite teams. This year, it's way different, and I believe like it's because you have these offensive players going into another year. You have these additions, these complete game changers. Now, this Indiana defense in this Oregon game, I believe, was outstanding. You forced Dante Moore to throw 2 picks, but not only that, a big concern that I had for Oregon, and they got out of the Penn State game. And again, I still believe this Oregon team is a national championship contender. It's just like who's going to step up for them. We see them obviously. The Makai Hughes thing doesn't work out. He redshirts. They have a multitude of different running backs. This Oregon team, for the first time this year, cannot get the run game going, and you got to credit Indiana's defense for that. They have 81 total rushing yards. We see that how many running backs they use. They use 3, 4 running backs a game. None of them could get it going. Credit to Indiana for stopping and run. Oregon uses like a hot hand type of mentality, which I have always loved. I love when you put in different type of backs, give a defense different looks. None of them can get anything going. Like we said, Dante Moore, there was 2 interceptions in this game, 2 crucial mistakes. Like I thought Indiana, Fernando Mendoza threw one of the worst balls to get Oregon back in this game, but luckily for them, on the other side, Dante Moore also made mistakes. And for a game that has 2 top NFL prospects, we saw both of them really make mistakes under pressure, which isn't a good thing. And Oregon's never gonna win one of these big matchups when nobody steps up. We see Malik Benson get a walk-in touchdown off a broken coverage. He gets his only reception for the game. DeCorian Moore gets shut down. I applauded DeCorian Moore for how fast this guy has stepped up in college football. We see him have a decent game against Penn State, which I didn't think was going to happen. We see him against the Cupcakes really produce as a top 3 option. Again, for a true freshman, that's very difficult. But DeCorian Moore, again, a guy that prioritizes a lot of his routes in the slot, a guy that's a great route runner with speed, gets separation. He cannot get anything going. And same thing for a guy in Kenyon Sadiq, who a lot of people have in the first round as the first tight end taken. He is a great blocker, but in this game, this is a game where Kenyon Sadiq has to step up. This guy is a mismatch for linebackers. He's a mismatch for secondary players and cannot get anything going as well. So you saw an Oregon team against an Indiana team who was a top 10 team going into this matchup. Nobody stood out for me. And that's the difference between these 2 teams. Because when you look at the other side, Indiana scoring 30 points, you have a guy in Elijah Sarrett, who has been phenomenal all year long. He has 121 yards and a touchdown, 8 receptions. He looked really good. And Omar Cooper has 7 receptions in this game as well. So they have 2 guys that are really good receivers in college football. And then Roman Hemby also has 2 touchdowns. They have a good run game as well. They get 111 yards rushing. Fernando Mendoza, like I said, he made one of the worst mistakes you could possibly make in this game. I thought the pick six, when he made that and Oregon tied up the game, they had momentum. I really thought this game was going to be over. That's a mistake that I'm saying it right now. Fernando Mendoza cannot make that mistake in another big game. The only reason he was able to overcome that mistake, and I give credit to him, after he threw this pick six, he came down, led them to a touchdown drive. Again, I love the mental toughness there. A lot of guys would have been completely rattled in Eugene, giving up a pick six. A lot of guys would have had a 3-and-out the next drive. He comes down, gets them the lead again. But the only reason why he was able to survive a pick six against a major opponent was because of how well his defense played. His defense forced turnovers, and Dante Moore had 2 interceptions on the other side. But like I said, I'm saying it right now against other top five, top 10 teams, you're not going to be able to throw that pick six. That pick six was absolutely horrible. It was a momentum shifter. Like I said, I give him the mental toughness, but an underthrown ball with a walk in touchdown, that cannot happen. But it really seemed to me the difference in this game, like I said, how Indiana's weapons stepped up. Like these guys stepping up against a top 10 opponent really shows a lot that these guys are legit weapons. And not only does the offense look better this year with Omar Cooper Jr., with Elijah Sarek, with Roman Hemby, these guys going into another year. Like Fernando Mendoza compared to last year, like again, O'Rourke, this guy was an undrafted NFL guy or a late NFL guy that went to the 49ers. Like now you have a first 2 round NFL quarterback, that makes a big difference as well. We saw Indiana do really well in the transfer portal, upgrade this offense even more from last year. And credit to Kurt Signetti, he completely turned around this program. And now I am a believer in this Indiana team. I usually always say it like I like to give takes before they happen. But for me, I said it. I need to see this Indiana team really compete with an elite team. Because last year, like I said, they bounced around their schedule. They beat who they should have beat. And then when they ran into truly elite football teams, they couldn't compete. Well, now they beat a top 3 team in Oregon, a national championship contender. They completely outplayed them. I thought the defense was phenomenal. Like I said, forcing multiple turnovers in this game. And to me, Indiana's offense looked a lot better than Oregon. Nobody on Oregon could get anything going, whether it was in the run game, whether it was in the pass game. Nobody could stand out. This was a concern to me about Oregon. Again, I let it go because they got past Penn State. But if Oregon is going to want to win a national championship, guys have to stand out. You're going to need big games out of the Corian Moore, Kenyon Sadiq. You're going to need this running back by committee game to produce. And like I said, the biggest thing, once you shut down this run game for a team, it gets them uncomfortable. We said it in the last game. We said it in this game. You shut down the run. That's a huge difference. Indiana gets this win. I think it's a huge win for Indiana Kurt Signetti. This is the game that puts them in a different light. Now we look at them as true national championship contenders. They're the number 3 team in the country, and they flat out deserve it. They have, I don't want to say a walk-in path to make the college football playoffs, but this is a team also that now can compete for the Big Ten championship as well. We look at their remaining schedule: Michigan State, UCLA, Maryland, Penn State, which we thought was going to be really tough, but now with Penn State, who knows? Wisconsin, Purdue. Like this team could have one loss. This team could be undefeated if they take care of everything. And you could see Indiana in the Big Ten championship. Wow. That's crazy to say. When you look at Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, all these big schools, Indiana is back in the mix. Could easily be in the Big Ten championship. They're 6-0. They got everything right in front of them to have a major seed in the college football playoffs. And credit to Kurt Signetti as well, like for turning around this program and his story. Like you see him leaving that Alabama staff, going to a D2 school, the head coach. He wanted to be a head coach. He believed in himself, and it has truly paid off. Now we're going to get into the Red River rivalry, Oklahoma, Texas. This is another game where I have a lot to talk about. Let me get a sip of water first. So we get into Texas, Oklahoma now. I have multiple things to say about this game, multiple takeaways. We made an episode dedicated to John Mateer, how much I love the heart and character of John Mateer. I believe sometimes character is worth more than anything else. Like so many of these players, whether it's college, whether it's pros, they are looking for themselves, looking solely out for their future. But John Mateer is a guy that wanted to be out there in this Red River rivalry game. He is a guy, whatever you want to say, how bad he played in this game, that defied the odds. He went out there where it was going to be 4 or 5 weeks of him after this injury was the timeline. He comes back in 2 weeks as he wants to play in arguably Oklahoma's biggest game of the season. Now, regardless I told you guys Oklahoma hasn't played a defense like Texas. It's going to be tough for them no matter who they go with. I didn't know what we were getting out of John Mateer. I didn't know if he was coming back because he truly felt good and we were going to see. I knew we were going to see John Mateer at 100%, but I didn't know if it was going to be 75, 80. I didn't know if it was going to be 50% of John Mateer, 30% of John Mateer, whatever you want to take it. Now, I do believe Oklahoma was in over their head because, like I said, I love this Texas defense. I think this Texas defense has stepped up in multiple huge games this season. Like when you look at the Ohio State game, holding Ohio State to 14 points, the lowest they have been at all season. Then when you look at, again, the Florida game, they didn't play well, but I think besides that, this Texas team has really played well. Like this defense has been phenomenal. Um, and this was a game where the defense truly won them the game. And it's also courtesy of John Mateer. Like looking back on it, like I said, I'm always going to applaud the character because we see so many people, like I said, go the opposite way. They have an injury that's supposed to be 2 to 3 weeks. They extend it to 6 weeks. Like that's all we are seeing in sports. But for this guy to go out there and truly try to give it his all, I applaud him. Now saying that, he probably shouldn't have went out there. Like it was so evident that John Mateer was not ready for this game. And Arch Manning, I thought he really played well. I thought this was the most impressive game from Arch Manning. Now, did Arch Manning come out here and dominate this game? I'm not going to say that. Arch Manning was 21 for 27, 166 yards. He had a touchdown in this game. He did nothing for Texas to lose this game. And I also thought there was a majority of throws on the run where he made some highly difficult throws. I thought he played really well. I thought this was a game to really get his confidence back, and he did nothing for them to lose this game. I thought he had a handful of plays that were really good, especially like when Arch Manning had that long 29-yard run to ice the game. I thought that was great as well. They didn't really use him in the run game as much as I expected, but they pulled it out at the best time. Like I said, his throws on the run were really good. I thought Texas left a lot of points on the board in the first half. Again, they go for a 50-plus yard field goal. They miss it. They go for another 50-yard plus field goal as well and miss it too. Like, I thought there were certain points in this game where they had third and short where they should have went for it. I believe, especially in college football, when you have a third and short and you decide to kick a 50-plus yard field goal, I think that is the complete wrong decision, especially when you're on the other side of the field. Like the chances you get a third and short compared to the chances your kicker makes a 50-plus yard field goal in college football, I believe the odds are just not in your favor there. And I did not like those calls by Steve Sarkisian. But again, in the first half, like I said, they miss a big field goal. They settle for a field goal in the red zone as well. Arch Manning missed a wide open receiver. I believe it was Park and Livingstone was the receiver he missed. Wide open, missed him. Like again, there definitely were missed opportunities for Arch Manning in Texas, but credit to this Texas defense, even though they forced 3 interceptions, which again, they forced, John Mateer, I believe, was just throwing uncharacteristic throws. Like he clearly was not right, especially a big momentum shift in this game, in my opinion. To go into the half, Oklahoma was in field goal range. They could have used a couple more yards. They decided to take a shot in the end zone, and John Mateer gifts wraps a pass to this Texas defense. Like that was a huge momentum shift where they thought they could have got three. They give it to Texas. Like John Mateer flat out did not look as good. And this was a game where I'm really going to say Texas defense won in the game. You hold Oklahoma to 6 points now. I said it in general. The quarterback for Oklahoma, whoever it is, John Mateer, Michael Hawkins, they have a lot on their shoulders. Like this Oklahoma team has no run game. In this game, they rushed for 48 yards. Another reason why I believe John Mateer was just not himself today, not only with the interceptions that he gift wrapped to this Texas defense, he was not able to run the football at all. And again, like I said, with these quarterbacks on Oklahoma, when you have to be the major source of running the football, they have been not able to have a 100-yard rusher truly all season. And you got to be the guy that supports the run game and the pass game. Not only does it make play calling so difficult because it makes you, when you're not able to run the football, the play calling is very obvious, but you have to be the main source of running the football and passing the football. A lot is going to be on the quarterback's shoulders. Then when the quarterback isn't right too, like Oklahoma was just way over their head in this game, and Texas defense held them to 6 points. Huge credit to Texas defense, probably the most difficult defense Oklahoma has played so far. Texas defense has flat out won them this football game. And sorry, 1 second, guys. They flat out won them this football game. And I just lost my train of thought. And Arch Manning again. I thought he played really well. I thought he made some high difficult throws, but I'm not going to say Arch Manning was completely dominant, that his performance was phenomenal. I thought he did enough for them to win this football game. I thought there were definitely flashes of what Arch Manning could be athletically on the run. And I think for Texas, this is a huge building block. Not only could they not afford another loss after the Florida loss and after the Ohio State loss, but you finally see Arch Manning lead Texas to a win against a ranked opponent, which we haven't seen all season, and you see flashes from him. Credit to this Texas defense, but John Mateer just did not look right. And like I said, Oklahoma quarterbacks for these contenders have more on their shoulders than I think anybody else in the country. And when you are just not right in this game, it is just a recipe for disaster. Like I said, credit to John Mateer. I absolutely love him going out there, but again, this game was a game that Texas needed to have and a game that Texas 100% deserved to win because Oklahoma was just not right. Arch Manning played well. Love everything about it for Texas. And still, John Mateer, I still like him going out there. Like, shows tremendous character. Now, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. Like, John Mateer should never went out there. He wasn't ready. But again, it shows character. I absolutely love it. Um, we're going to get into the next game. We're going to get into Michigan USC. Now, I don't know what to make of Michigan. This is Michigan's second loss of the season. I watched Michigan against Nebraska. They were able to open up their offense. We see them against Oklahoma. They looked like they just weren't trying to lose the game, had Bryce Underwood in handcuffs. And then against USC now, they get dominated. So I don't really know what to make of this Michigan team. Can this Michigan team sneak into the college football playoffs? Maybe. Again, you never want to count them out against Ohio State, but it's just not looking like the year they're going to beat Ohio State. Even though I don't want to say that because we've seen recent history with this Michigan team, but this USC team, I feel like flat out dominated them in all facets. I think USC played their best game of the season by far. And I think for this Michigan team, when you are not able to stop the run against Lincoln Riley, along with any team that doesn't stop the run against Lincoln Riley, you are in deep, deep trouble. Because Lincoln Riley, I have said it time and time again, why Lincoln Riley has not been successful in recent years is because he hasn't had a run game. Lincoln Riley is one of the best play callers, if not the best play caller in college football from an offensive standpoint. And when he has a run game, oh my God, he could completely dominate you. Now, I was concerned because we saw Waymon Jordan leave this game. So I was like, they lose their top running back. Are they going to be able to run the football? King Miller absolutely stepped up, MVP of this game. He has 18 carries for 158 yards and a touchdown. And it got to a point in this game with King Miller where Michigan just looked tired. Like when they would stretch it on the outside, they were picking up chunk plays. We see King Miller's long of 49 yards. And again, it just opens up the pass game. Jaden Mayava had an interception that I thought in the red zone. Another example that of what could have been a momentum shifter. A guy that has to know in this big matchup that you just need to take three when nothing's there. He gives it to Michigan, but again, Michigan cannot get anything going. Jaden Mayava did play really well though in this game. Has 265 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Makai Lemon, again, one of the best players in the nation. He played really well with 9 receptions, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Jacoby Lane also gets a touchdown in this game as well. You saw in this game the differences of the complete difference of two offenses, like a Michigan team that relies pretty much, I'm not going to say solely on the run game, but 80% of their offense works on the run game. And when you saw a USC team that when they get the ball running, it also opens up the pass game for them. Like you were talking about a USC team just has a ton of more weapons than Michigan. And a team that when they put up big points on the board, when Michigan is playing from behind, they are not going to win the football game. When you look at Michigan, I knew they were pretty much done. Not only how USC came out in this game, but also because Justice Haynes does get injured in this game. Jordan Marshall has 68 yards in this game, but Justin Haynes is the best player on this offense right now for this football team. I know the talent of Bryce Underwood is there, but Justice Haynes is the best player on this football team. He has, again, when Michigan wins, he has long runs for them. He gets injured right away for his Michigan team. They really can't get the run game going, and they are playing from behind. Bryce Underwood, again, a game where he kind of looks like he's playing with handcuffs. A guy that looks better when he's on the run, which is a little weird to me. Also, the thing with Michigan and this Bryce Underwood team, like they're very good in the quick passing game, but they have no deep threats, in my opinion. Big play passing plays. Now, I do like Donovan McCulley. I said that Andrew Marsh had a spectacular game, though, 138 yards and a touchdown, but you still see this Michigan team be pretty one dimensional. Now, I think under Bryce Underwood, 4 years to come, as he develops, his Michigan team is going to be more of a threat passing the ball. But when you play a USC team that is able to run the football against you and can open up the passing game with two NFL receivers, you just have too much. You're going up against too much talent and an offense where this Michigan team is not going to win a shootout. Their defense didn't come to play. They let up like this huge run game, like I keep on mentioning, and they just have too many weapons on the outside USC for Michigan to compete. This Michigan team got completely dominated on both sides of the ball, on offense, on defense, completely dominated. Lincoln Riley feasted in this game. USC moves up to 5-1, and you're talking about a USC team now that has the possibility of making the college football playoffs as well if they just handle what's in front of them. They do play Oregon, which is going to be a tough game. They play Nebraska next week. Notre Dame, that could be tough games as well. Do I predict this team to make the college football playoffs? No. Would I be surprised if they are there? No, I wouldn't be surprised at all either. But again, this Michigan team, I truly worry if they're going to compete in college football, be able to make a college football playoff run with just the handcuffs they have on Bryce Underwood. We've seen now for the second matchup in a row where it looks like their offense is completely limited, where they're relying on the run game, and you're not going to be able to do that against these top offenses that could beat you in a multitude of ways on offense when you flat out can't. And this is the difference. We said this in the Alabama Missouri game. We said this in like a multitude of games so far. When you see these teams where you get high on right away the first 5 weeks, beating against opponents, that they should beat, and then they get into a game where their run game is shut down, and you got to beat a team in a variety of different ways. This is the difference and the gap between college football playoff teams. Not even saying USC is a college football playoff team, but this is the gap of being a college football playoff team and just being a good team in college football. We see Michigan have complete limitations on their offense, and it showed in this game. And I'm going to say it right now. Like I said, Lincoln Riley is one of the best play calls in college football. He has the talent on this offense. But if he is able to consistently get this run game going, this USC team could score points with anybody. Again, I have the biggest question mark on their defense. I believe they lost the game to Illinois that was very, very winnable. And it was because of their defense. Their defense could not stop a lick in that game. Their defense could not get to Luke Altmaier. But if their defense plays like this, and could hold a team to under 20 points, USC is going to win every game they play pretty much because their offense has so much talent. It's their defense again. And I don't know because their remaining schedule is pretty tough. If they could get out of this with 2 losses and make the college football playoffs, because I don't think they're going to be a team that gets the first bid. But that's why that Illinois game was such a big game for them, a game where they were 7-point favorites. Like they need to have that win because their remaining schedule is kind of tough. Now, the last game I do want to get into before we get into the complete disaster that has been Penn State, we're going to get into this Georgia Auburn game. I don't really have too much to say about this Georgia Auburn game. Now, Georgia does play in a tough environment in Auburn, but the one thing I do have to say about Auburn, they have 3 losses, and I completely feel for Auburn because I think in 2 games now. The game against Oklahoma that we saw, that the whole college football community saw, that the refs gave Oklahoma a touchdown that shouldn't have been called in a one-score game. Now you get into this Georgia Auburn game where we saw 2 minutes of game time of football take 45 real minutes, I believe it was, and constant review, review. We are talking about an Auburn team that was up 10 to nothing at the goal line, at the 1 inch line. Jackson Arnold goes with a QB sneak. To me, it looked like he got it. To my father, it looked like he got it. To the broadcast of this game, it looked like he got it. To the rules analyst, it looked like he got it. And what was the call on the field? Jackson Arnold fumble. Now, if you're talking about a complete momentum shift in a game where Auburn would have went up 17 nothing at home against Georgia, Georgia was not winning this game at that point. And it just boggles me who everybody in my room, the broadcast team, the rules analysts, could see one thing and the refs could see another. And then you talk about, like I said, 45 minutes to take care of 2 minutes of actual game time when you saw multiple booth reviews by the refs. And everything just goes in favor of Georgia. Every single time they review the play within those 2 minutes, it went to Georgia. To me, I thought this game was absolutely horrible to see. You see an Auburn team that I've said it multiple weeks, their record doesn't show the type of team they are. They could really compete in the SEC. Now, I'm not saying they're a national championship contender. I'm not saying they're an SEC championship contender. But now you see 2 straight weeks against major opponents, which we know you cannot afford to lose one game against a major opponent that you shouldn't. You saw them again, like I mentioned, that Oklahoma game, in a one-score game, a touchdown that shouldn't happen in a one-score game. Now you see it in this game, a game where I believe they should have flat out beat Georgia. Doesn't happen as well. 2 times because of the refs. You could see, like, truly a 5-1 Auburn team in the SEC beating 2 major opponents. Instead, they're 3-3. If I'm a fan of this Auburn program, if I'm this Auburn coaching staff, Auburn players, I have to feel like I'm absolutely getting hosed this season. Again, I say you never want to put it in the hands of the refs, but when you are seeing something twice, 2 major season changing touchdowns in this game, where everybody in the college football world is seeing it one way and the refs are seeing it another way, I think it's inexcusable. I think it's inexcusable. Georgia wins this game 20-10. I'm just gonna say it. They didn't deserve to win. They did not deserve to win. This Georgia team I still have questions on. Again, Georgia Auburn, even though it's always a tough game between these teams, this is a game that you're supposed to win decisively. That's not what this was. For this Georgia team, again, nobody continues to stand out. They somehow get out of this game with 79 rushing yards total in this game. Their leading receiver, Zachariah Branch, with 57 rushing yards. I still have major questions with this Georgia offense. I get it. Their defense is phenomenal. They hold Auburn to 10 points, which, like I said, probably shouldn't have been the case. Gunnar Stockton, he plays well enough in this game for them not to lose it. 217 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. This Auburn team, again, Jackson Arnold isn't a guy that's going to completely tear you up passing the ball. He is a great runner of the football. They run for 140 yards. He only throws for 137 passing yards, but he has a key fumble loss in this game, which, again, like I said, I mentioned the play. It shouldn't have been a fumble. It should not have been a fumble. It should have been a touchdown. I'm completely disgusted. Like, I'm disgusted. I feel for these Auburn fans. Like, again, even if, one game against Oklahoma or Georgia goes your way, and again, we talk about it, you can't leave it in the hands of the refs, but when you're talking about major calls that decide a season and everybody in the country sees it one way, who is a non-biased watcher, and the refs see it another, I got to think, like, the college football playoffs really want to see Georgia in it. And I hate saying it, but you question if things are fixed because I don't know. To me, that was like inexcusable. Both games completely inexcusable. Both touchdowns that go against Auburn. You're looking at an Auburn team that could be, like I said, 5-1, winning games against two major opponents. Now I don't know. It was a one-score game. It would have been close with Oklahoma, but I think Auburn, if they get that touchdown, going up 17-0 at home, like I think they win this game. I really think Georgia has no business winning this game. I feel for Auburn. Again, sometimes it just happen. You're on the wrong end of the stick. They got shafted this season. That's what I have to say about that. Now we're going to get into what everybody wants to hear me talk about. I have told you guys I have been completely wrong on Penn State. I have my hand up and said it. Now, again, we talk about Penn State. You talk about any college football analyst that gets paid the big bucks. We all thought Penn State was going to be there. We all thought Penn State was going to make the college football playoffs. Nobody expected this season from them. Now, I talked about going into last week. I talked about how I believe James Franklin should not get fired. He loses a huge 20-point spread to UCLA last week. Coming out of that game, I said there was major coaching mistakes, but he should not be fired. I have talked to you guys what it does to a program when you fire a coach right now in the NIL transfer portal era. You fire somebody before this era, it isn't that big of a deal because, again, all your money was going to coaches. So it wasn't that big of a deal to fire a coach, to buy out a coach. If you believe that was the case, all you're paying is the coaching staff and truly. So for you to fire a coach in a different era was not a big deal. Now you fire James Franklin, and I'm going to flat out and say it. I'm not going to completely switch my opinion. I am not 100% sure what I would have done if I was in Penn State shoes. You lose two 20-point spread games back to back against UCLA, against Northwestern. That's completely inexcusable. It is something that can never happen if you were a top program like Penn State. I don't know if I have ever seen it happen. I would have to look back and do some research. I don't know if I've ever seen a program that's like a top 10 program going into the year like Penn State, a top 5 program, lose two 20-point spread games back to back. It is inexcusable. I have said it in the UCLA game when we were going over that game. I thought there was multiple coaching mistakes in that game. And I felt the same way about this Northwestern game as well. When we look at the play call and late in that game, it looked like James Franklin. I never want to say it, but it looked like he gave up on his team. Now, for James Franklin, I'm still going to say it. With the hand he was dealt with going into this hiring over the last, I believe it was 12 years. Maybe it was a little less his tenure, but I thought with the hand he was dealt with, obviously everybody knew the state of where Penn State was at when he was getting hired. I don't have to go over the outside issues. I still think James Franklin did not have a bad tenure at Penn State. When we look at his record, I believe it was like 145-45. He did have a Big Ten championship for Penn State. Last year, he was one of the last 4 teams in the college football semifinals. Like, there was definitely successful years for James Franklin and Penn State, multiple successful years. But to sit here and say that I 100% disagree with Penn State letting him go, like I said, it is tough during the college football era that we are in now where you want to pay players. I get it, a lot of these schools have deep pockets. A $50 million buyout is tough. And I said it with Penn State last week. If you were going to fire James Franklin, and I understand this team needs a change of face after two 20-point spreads that are inexcusable, you can't accept that. You can't have him coaching next week. So in a way, I agree with this, but at the same time, now you have to find somebody that's going to be a significant upgrade for Penn State. a guy that's going to get Penn State to a national championship, which we haven't seen, you got to make sure you're getting this upgrade. And we have said it. I understand there are coaches right now better than James Franklin. When you look at Lane Kiffin, Kurt Signetti, Dan Lanning, even Ryan Day, who was questions last year. Like there's a multitude. Kirby Smart, obviously. Like we could name off the coaches that are better than James Franklin right now. But those coaches flat out are not available. So now you bought out James Franklin for $50 million. You got to have somebody in mind that you think is a significant upgrade over him, because you just ate all this money in a transfer portal NIL era that could really set you back when you talk about getting talent. And we get it; they have deep pockets. Now there was rumors going on that Penn State could get Kurt Signetti. I'm flat out going to say this to you guys: that's not going to happen. Indiana's going to do whatever they can right now to keep Kurt Signetti. And I really don't know who's available for Penn State to, again, to buy out James Franklin. I don't know who's going to be available and a better change of faith that's going to lead them to a national championship. Penn State, in my opinion, you just got to chalk it up to they were in an extremely tough spot. You can't tolerate two 20-point spread losses by any means. But also, like I said, to buy out somebody for $50 million is completely tough as well when James Franklin had successful years and is going to put you behind the eight ball with players. I see both sides of it. I'm not going to fault Penn State either way. They decide to fire him. Last week, like I said, I thought there was no way they should have fired James Franklin. I also thought there was no way Northwestern was beating Penn State and they were going to have these consecutive 20-point spread losses. They do. Now we get into the other factor of Penn State. We're going to talk about Drew Aller now. We didn't fault Drew Aller for coming back to Penn State, but we also discussed, we have an episode dedicated. You guys have to scroll all the way down. Drew Aller making this decision to come back to Penn State, because there was rumors going into this NFL draft that Drew Aller, based off of potential, his size, his arm strength, what he could do on the football field, that he was going to be a top 5 pick. We had sources saying that Cleveland Browns were prepared to take him with a top 5 pick. Now you look at Drew Aller, and again, everybody's learning under this NIL era what they should do. I mean, we talked about Nico Lava absolutely blowing a bag and absolutely blowing a great situation. Drew Aller now, after a disappointing start to the season, now he has a season-ending injury. He completely changes his fate and his opportunity. If he would have left last year, he would have been a first-round talent. Now you look at him, and I don't think he's going to come back to Penn State by any means. And you look at this guy now being a third, fourth, fifth-round pick, depending on how he's viewed after his injury, where he was a pretty much locked top 10 pick last year if he would have came out. These are all learning curves with this NIL era now that we all are like viewing for the first time. Drew Aller made a massive mistake, but I said it, like, this Penn State was really going all in this year, and similar with Clemson, like an absolute failure, but everybody was coming back. They were one of the most experienced teams in college football between Dennis Sutton and the two running backs. Like everybody that was coming back, what they did in the transfer portal at receiver. Like Drew Aller wanted to come back. It showed character. It showed how much he loved Penn State. And we didn't fault him because there are only 4 or 5 years, whatever, that you were going to be a college kid. I don't want to judge it from, an outside viewer. Like I will never be in Drew Aller's situation. It looked like everything was set up for him to have a successful season this year. It did not work out this way. Should he have maybe took the NFL offer? Hindsight's 2020. Like, again, I didn't fault him either way, but I wanted to talk about that, like, massive decision for Drew Aller. Could have been a first-round pick last year. Now he's going to be a fourth, fifth-round pick. The only thing I do have to say about Drew Aller, why I also don't fault it in this era as well, this was a guy that was picking up $4 million a year. This is a guy that set himself up nicely regardless. But it's going to be interesting to see where Drew Aller lands in the NFL. Complete disaster for James Franklin. Complete disaster for him. And now They go with Terry Smith as their interim head coach. Terry Smith has worn a lot of hats for Penn State. He was a DB coach. For the last couple of years, he was associate head coach. Now he takes over as the interim head coach. They don't go with Tom Allen. And now they go with Ethan Grugemeyer, who is going to be interesting to see how they use him. They do play Ohio State in their schedule, so I think they're going to rely heavily on their run game still. They're going to give the ball to their two NFL running backs in Nick Singleton, Katron Allen. Ethan Grugemeyer, though, he is a redshirt freshman, technically a sophomore, depending on how you want to look at it. He was a four-star recruit. He is a guy that's a pocket passer. He tends to get the ball out quick, and he is able to run when he needs to. He is a guy with a lot of talent. It's going to be interesting to see where Penn State goes from here. Again, we saw UCLA fire their head coach. They uplifted themselves. They've won 2 games straight now. Ironically, one against Penn State. It's going to be interesting to see how Terry Smith handles this now. Because again, maybe they go with somebody inside, even though I don't think that's what Penn State is going to do as a major program. But it's going to be interesting to see how Penn State bounces back from here. James Franklin gets fired, which in the beginning of this season I could have never thought was going to happen. And he gets fired in week 7. Absolutely insane. Going to be interesting to see his next opportunity. Drew Aller, like we have mentioned, a guy that could have been a first-round pick last year. It's so interesting to see year from year how people really drop off in viewers' eyes. Like we saw a guy in Quinn Ewers that we thought should have came back, didn't. We saw a guy like Carson Beck that we thought was going to be the first overall pick last year. He takes a drop. Now he's back in first round conversations. Like again, going to be interesting to see what Drew Aller does from here. Going to be interesting to see if James Franklin gets another opportunity. But yeah, Penn State has been an absolute disaster. That wraps up this episode of Sloppy Saturdays. Drop down below all your thoughts of the college football landscape through week 7. And like I said, a lot of surprises in college football that nobody could have predicted. Like I said, that wraps up this episode.